it's me, Jaimee-Lee, singer, songwriter, master of the electric kazoo, and today I'm talking about music. So I come from a musical family, right? My father plays guitar and harmonica, my mum sings and plays a little bit of guitar. My sister is a hell of a singer and also plays the flute. I myself play trombone, drum, guitar, and I sing as well. And as a musician, I kind of developed along with music, you know, like my mum used to always play like Rolling Stones, The Who, Michael Jackson, Ice House. My sister's really into musicals. Love Jersey Boys. Hamilton's entertaining. I'm not a huge fan of all the songs, but you know, it's got its charm. Phantom of the Opera is fan-fucking-tastic. Like, well, look at me, all art snob. The Phantom sequel's pretty good as well. Like, some of the jokes in there are hilarious. I didn't really know about Les Miserables until a friend of mine, Claire, her and I went to the movies to go see it, and that was pretty good. Anne Hathaway was fucking fantastic. Hugh Jackman was pretty good, and I didn't hate Russell Crowe. I feel like I'm the only one who actually has that opinion. Except for the part where he dies, because that's fucking hilarious. Like, it sounds like a log snapping in half. But like, when I was younger, my mum was in a rock and roll cover band, so I was always surrounded by like music in general. When I was 10, my primary school I was going to had like an aptitude test, and I had no idea what I was fucking doing. And somehow I still made it into the course, so I ended up going to like my future high school 2 years early. And that's where I learned how to play the trombone. But like for me, the issue was I ended up figuring out how to sight read, and I got bored. Why should I bother practicing my instrument if I can just come in, look at it, and fucking play? I mean, I've already got the technique down, so it wouldn't take that much to just play the track. But I ended up becoming bored of the instrument because of the fact that, like, well, sight reading made it boring. I was just playing whatever they freaking wanted me to. So I ended up falling out of love with music for a while. One funny part about, like, I did love my lecturers in my high school music program. Les Pierce and Stephanie Parr. I have no idea what they're up to nowadays. I hope they're succeeding. Les is probably really old, so I have no idea, like. But Les used to try to always grab our attention by like telling us to focus on his forehead like we're shooting lasers at him. He was pretty hardcore when it came to being a conductor. I mean, I was a trombone player. I was in the brass section. It's us and the percussionists talking the most shit anyway. Basically, clarinets are the snobs. Flutes wish the fucking brass section would stop talking shit. The brass section is talking shit with the percussionists, who are also trying to fuck the flautist. And Steph Parr was great. I mean, my issue was because I was playing a brass instrument, I, at that time, didn't really give a shit about treble clef or like learning music theory in that way. I felt like I was programmed to play like giant horn. But at the same time, she was one of those kind of teachers where like she could inspire you to wanna do more stuff and actually try. But I ended up falling out of music after a certain point. I ended up like sort of not really caring about playing instruments or anything like that. I'd started working full time. I was making money. I like just did whatever. And then I ended up, I was doing a sheet metal apprenticeship at the time, and I ended up meeting a dude named Andrew who ended up introducing me to the local heavy metal scene. That was pretty much the beginning of me wanting to start making music again. But ironically, it wasn't heavy metal that ended up being the thing I moved on to. I ended up getting really into the band Sun. I met this dude, Ben, who I ended up jamming with for a little while, and he ended up introducing me to the band Moss. And Moss are like if you took Black Sabbath and basically made it angrier, that's Moss. Um, but because of Moss, I ended up discovering Sun, and then I started discovering more and more experimental music, but it also sort of got me starting playing guitar. So I didn't like get into guitar at first. Like I got given a guitar by my mom. It was like a Fender Strat kit with like the tiny amplifier. I like did some things on it, but I didn't really use it that much. But then later on in life, I ended up picking up the guitar again. I started playing my mom's Strat copy from like, I don't know, 70s, 80s. And that sort of got me like making, like I my early stuff is so garbage. But then again, I am like experimental musician as well. But I started trying to make more like drone, ambient vibes. That later ended up introducing me to a dude, Will, or Simon, whatever he's calling himself at the time. Him and I jamming ended up starting the band Scavenger's Daughter. And funnily enough, that's about 10 years ago that jam happened. So, like, fucking a while back. Then I didn't end up doing a lot with music post a certain point because I just kind of got bored of it. I'd go through these depressive episodes where I'd just be, artists going insane and like destroying all their gear or like selling it because they just don't give a shit about the music anymore. It's like a curse, right? But then like after doing the experimental Sun crap for whatever, right? And then I discovered the band Earth. And Earth got me to appreciate old music more. I will stand by that The Bees Made Honey and the Lion's Skull is the greatest instrumental album of all time. But because of like discovering more about Dylan Carlson, I started listening to Nirvana. Then one day I decided to check out the Beatles back catalogue and I was like, holy shit. And I started listening to Pink Floyd. Then I started listening to Led Zeppelin, all these other bands that I've been discovering recently, Velvet Underground, King Crimson, listened to early Genesis recently. Oh, goddamn, T-Rex is one of my favorite bands at the moment. I have the record collection, as you can see. Over there is the old AOR amplifier deck. I've got like a couple of old Toshiba speakers there as well. Big boys. But I love music, and irony, I've only paid for like 2 of my record collection. I love music. I love bands. I love all sorts of things. I'm a music as a musician myself, I can understand the artistry behind it. I think like some of the greatest albums I've ever heard have been things that make my fucking heart break. Because of listening to all these bands, I ended up changing my music style. I wanted to write more like standard songs. I started writing tracks that I thought sounded cool, and that really just made me want to play more and more. I'm always writing stuff. I've got like an EP in the works that's coming out in July. I'm planning on doing a double album of like tracks that I've been writing over the past 10 years. I'm planning on playing more gigs. I'm planning on actually, doing something with the talent I have that I'm not using. But speaking of music, I should give you some of my personal recommendations. Tommy, the movie soundtrack. Now, you need to hear this. It's got the best version of I'm Free. It's got the best version of Acid Queen. The entire soundtrack itself is top notch. It trumps the original by far. A Night at the Opera by Queen. So, first time I listened to this, I was kind of annoyed because I was sick of Bohemian Rhapsody. It's a meme at this point, let's be real. But upon repeated listens, this is a great album. It's not, Queen isn't a perfect band, let's be real. I had a copy of Greatest Hits 2 on tape cassette that I used to go around with my Walkman, so I love the ones like Breakthrough, Invisible Man, It's a Kind of Magic, It's a Hard Life. But Bohemian Rhapsody is still a great track, and like this album as a whole, it's pretty good. I'm in Love with My Car is a low point in my opinion, but the rest of the album, it's just it's cool rock and roll songs with little ditties in between with Freddie Mercury just bopping along. It's great. Ram by Paul McCartney. By God, I love this record. It's fantastic. Like, Too Many People, Admiral Halsey, Uncle Albert. Like, Ram On's just fun little thing with Paul bouncing along on the ukulele. Like, you can't complain. Might as well continue with the Paul McCartney theme. This is Abbey Road. Now, if you want to hear Paul McCartney's best bass playing, it is on freaking Abbey Road. It's just out of this world. There's a YouTube video of him, of just the bass track alone, and it's outstanding. Best song on the record, obviously, I Want You, She's So Heavy. Like, 7 minutes of pure awesome. Dark Side of the Moon, duh. It's the perfect LP. Like, it just feels like one whole cohesive unit from start to finish. The A side is definitely better than the B side. The second greatest album of all time. Beatles fans can kiss my ass. Revolver's the best album. Sgt. Pepper's is amazing, but I can skip She's Leaving Home and I can skip Good Morning, because they're all right tracks, but they just kind of become annoying after a while. But Revolver, it's got Yellow Submarine on it. It's got She Said, it's got freaking Tomorrow Never Knows. I'm Only Sleeping is one of my favorite songs. You just cannot go past this as the best Beatles record in my opinion. The greatest album of all time, and I will not change my mind on that. Carole King's Tapestry, from the first time I've heard it until now, has been an album I cannot skip a song on. The piano intertwined with her vocals is something that's angelic in a way, and yet somehow you can bop along and rock out. But this album's made me cry. I'll just give you a bunch of takes right now. Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory is amazing. Its blend of hip-hop with metal is something I've not seen repeatable. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of their later era, but at the same time, that album is fucking fantastic. Electric Warrior by T-Rex. First time I heard that album, like, I didn't know what to think, and I just sung along to the entire album and bopped along and shit. It was great. Monoliths and Dimensions by Sun. I'll be real, if you want two albums that define Sun, it's Monoliths and Dimensions and Black One. They really tell you, like, what you're in for with that band. Also, Pink by Boris. That is outstanding. If you're going to listen to Pink, listen to the deluxe edition, because it's 2 albums. It's an album that really shows the diversity of the band, and like the fact that they've had the staying power and the amount of albums they've released just shows that this band has a staying power that won't be going anywhere. Like other bands I'm really into, like Jucifer, Pathology, Abominable Putridity, Bloodbath is my favorite death metal band. Autopsychosis by Catalepsy is my favorite death metal album. Rain in Blood is obviously Rain in Blood, but I think God Hates Us All is a better album. Cannibal Corpse, both eras. I mean, like, The Bleeding is obviously my favorite by Barnes, but if it comes, like, Fisher is really hard to decide because there's just so much good work he's done. I love Lady Gaga, and even when she was Stephanie, it's still amazing. I don't actually hate Miley Cyrus. I think she's okay. Her cover of Jolene is like amazing. stand Megadeth. I guess that's a stereotype. You're either one or the other. Anthrax is okay. They're Anthrax. I've been really into Blondie lately. Don't associate the wig with why I'm listening to Blondie. But like, I really like the older stuff. Like, they are a punk band. But really, I should just stop talking about all these things. In the end, like, I found that just having those sorts of things to be able to help me find my own sound and my own style when it came to music really got me to keep doing it and planning on doing more. So I guess that's it. Anyway, I've been Jaimee-Lee, and always remember, it's not the big titty goth girl on the outside, but the one in your heart.